I rise to speak as a proud trade unionist since the age of 16, and I'll be so till the very end. This government does not care about patients, passengers, parents or the public, because that is not what their minimum service level bill is about. The bill is a shameful attack on the democratic right to strike. At just 6 pages, the bill does not even set out the boundaries of what is permissible. This, they say, will be decided later by the Secretary of State through regulation and not by Parliament, giving the government the power without scrutiny to also shockingly override legislation made in the devolved Scottish Parliaments and the Senate. This is not democracy. This is government by diktat. It's authoritarianism writ large. The bill gives government the power to deny workers their right to strike, their fundamental basic human right, allowing employers to bring injunctions to prevent strikes, sue unions and sack employees across the public sector, including the NHS, transport, fire and rescue and education, undermining workers' rights to a fair wage and improved terms and conditions. Strikes are a symptom, not the cause. Workers are being dragged into poverty and having to resort to strike action to make their voices heard. And this government is trying to break them. From voter suppression to the attack on our right to protest, through to this anti-strike bill, the government intends to crush workers' basic freedoms, and yet we live in a democratic society. Strike action is the tool of last resort and the best negotiating power workers have against unscrupulous and callous employers. The bill seeks to erode the rights of trade unions to organise and drive fear through the very soul of workers who could lose their protection from dismissal as a result of this bill. Our trade union and employment rights legislation are already weak. You only have to look to some of Leicester's garment industry to see evidence of that, where workers today are still being paid less than the minimum wage on zero-hour contracts in Victorian workhouse conditions, with no enforcement agency able to break the scandalous mistreatment of workers who are fearful and whose powers have been weakened to near silence. In today's Britain, not a single garment factory in Leicester will recognise a trade union. In the same way, this bill seeks obedience at the will of the state. It allows for the punishment of unions and workers who do not comply with the so-called work notice. The bill is not about providing a basic level of service to the public. It's about breaking the growth of the trade union movement. The right to strike will be controlled by the state and only permissible on government terms. To resist means to be liable to huge penalties under this bill. This bill is a threat to our basic rights. It's draconian, dehumanising and bullying. It's class war. And for the sake of our hard-won freedoms, we must stand firm.